Welcome to Castle de Moore. Welcome to the Illuminati broadcast. My name is David Moore. I'm your host. This is where we talk about conspiracies and all kind of crazy things and spiritual warfare and magic and the Ars Goetia. We love the three magical books of Solomon. We love Pokemon. We love Digimon. We love Japanese animation and, what's it called? Medieval stuff. We love fantasy. We love video games. So today is Saturday, September 20th. So we have the moon in Virgo. The month is in Virgo. That's earthly things, so material wealth. And that's a good thing. Let's see, Saturday. That's ruled by Furcus. He's a demon that is from the Ars Goetia that is a knight. And his job is to stretch out to the other signs. And he basically empowers everything. So on these kind of days, you can expect all the other planets to really get enhanced. It's like it's for everybody kind of thing. So, yeah, usually Saturn is something representative of death and transformation and struggles and warfares and battles and like disasters. So usually on Saturdays, people try to live like their best life so they can like bring in a lot of positivity on those days and like kind of avoid that misfortune instead of enhancing it, and try to avoid any like problems later on in the week so they have as much fun as they can on Saturdays. Bring out like those good spirits. So usually in my spiritual warfare, I like to cause some kind of havoc in the astral realm for the Saturdays, gather all that energy and make sure that throughout the week that it is empowered by Saturn's, destruction. So basically, but I also, since I'm an air sign, that means my ruling planet would be Venus. And as Venus is a sign of love and grace and beauty, I like to put out that energy into the world so that way they can get everything they want and they don't notice all the pain and destruction that's going on behind the scenes. The more they know what's going on, the worse it is for you, but also at the same time you kind of have to like play a little bit of a balancing act, like a trapeze act where destroy them a little, make sure that they're happy, destroy them, make sure they're happy, so that way they can keep on prospering and growing, and the more stronger they get, the more of a show you have going on. And let's see. So today I decided to invoke Halahel. So you see the Halahel. Alright. And he is not really classified as a duke, a king, a marquise, or anything. He's the 73rd spirit. So officially there's only 72 spirits in the Ars Goetia, but then there's these two sigils. One is for Saturn and Mars, which is what they use to seal the spirits into the brass vessel, so basically the lamp. And then there's a special seal. So if you ever heard of the story of Pandora's box, you can imagine that as the vessel. So there's a lot of similarities between Christian mythologies or Jewish mythologies and Greek mythology. So that lets you know that once upon a time those Jews became Greeks and those Greeks became Christians. So there's this intertwining of this religion, but they just interpret it in their own ways, because imagine you're making clothes right now and later on you're going to be making clothes that are different, that have different designs, that have different buttons, different zippers, but it's still your product, Anyways, so you have this story even with the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. And so you have Pandora's box, and when she opens it, all these spirits fly out, and there's one that's left behind, and it's Hope. So that's kind of representative of it. So Halahel is a spirit that's not classified under the 72. It's something different. It's partly good and partly evil. So it has two sides to it, good and bad. Can we think of any Pokemon that are like kind of at the end of the line where they represent good and evil? If you were thinking Mew and Mewtwo, then there you go, because this would be Mew and Mewtwo. If we look at the way the sigil's placed, you have these kind of like these three crosses, and this one looks like his head is kind of like hanging down a little bit. It gives you an idea of like when Jesus was hanging on the cross, and I feel like that's a very important, crucial, hidden symbology, that there's these three crosses. and you have Jesus in the middle, so he's with these other bad people. But you can also think of it as the past, the present, and the future. So in the past, they probably did something bad, and in the future, they don't want these people to do any more bad things, and in the present, they have you suffering. So that's kind of like how it ties into my story a little bit with the past, present, future stuff. Maybe I'll decide like a name for this kind of mechanic. But yeah, so maybe we'll get into that part of the story a little bit later. But let's finish with Halahel real quick. So, yeah, it's not classified under anything. So that kind of gives you an idea, like, something hidden, something mysterious, and that's kind of what Miyu is. And then something that's kind of powerful and evil, and that's Mewtwo. So you have that partly good and partly evil. And I think that also works with those three dimensions from the past, present, and future. It's like part of it's good and part of it's evil. And that goes with everything. And if you also look at this could be, for me, when I look at the 72 seals, you see a book. So this could be like the part of the book that opens and closes. Do I just grab it?
Yeah, but it's kind of...
Ah! Carne asada. Let's see what it tastes like. Mmm. That's really good. I'm on the keto. Only meat, only protein, vegetables, no fruits. You can eat carrots, but only a little bit. I eat a lot of tofu. Drink a lot of water. You can't drink anything with sugar. You gotta look at everything. Does it have carbs? And if it does, you can't eat it. But you can eat like every now and then some kind of carbs. But not too much. And then you can have cheat days where you eat a lot of carbs, but don't go too crazy. I wish I knew how to edit so I could put something here and then make you guys watch something. Chewy. Actually, I have one of the seals right here. Who would this be in Pokemon? It makes you impervious to fire and water. And it's basically the seal of the vessel, of the brass vessel. So it contains everything. Is there a Pokemon that we could think of that's really big, really round, and eats a lot? And it has a secret technique that allows it to withstand fire and ice. And it's a pretty strong warrior, but it's also lazy, And if you look at him, he kind of does look like a genie, because usually they show a genie to be like kind of big and fat, Yeah, that's Snorlax. Let me finish this. ASMR. Hopefully you're not in a third world country. I'm sorry. Alright, if we kind of look at the seal, you get the symbol of Pisces. This is also the symbol for the West. This is kind of a diamond, but it could be seen as a symbol for the North. So Northwest, East, and South. I guess that would kind of make sense because the sun kind of moves, and then you have the South with the suns. And then Saturn obviously represents the North because that's the more colder areas. And then the South is representative of Mars because it gets hotter. And then I guess this is that equator thing that I was telling you about. Okay. So in the story, actually this makes a lot of sense. Alright. In the story of the Ars Goetia, they explain that there's a demon that's in the middle of the ocean that holds the poles together. And that it's like an invisible pillar. And then you have, they just give you a lot of clues and details to what the world looks like, but in their own way. So in the mythology of my story, we're inside of the earth. This is the Earth, and we're on the inside. So we would probably be right here, okay? This is our peripheral vision and what we see. In the middle, that's the North and South Pole. So you have the North Pole holding everything together, obviously. The South Pole's down here. So we're on the inside of the circumference. So the further south you go, like South America, and then like maybe the Antarcticas or whatever. And then if you go north, then you're going to go to like Canada and go higher. So if I look straight across from where I'm at, I can see like London and Israel. And the sun is kind of rotating in here. And it's like being able to shine over the earth, but it rotates. And then the moon is kind of created from the reflection of the north and the south, and it creates a moon. Meat gets stuck in my teeth easy. Yeah, so we just learned something together. So that kind of gives you an idea what the world looks like on the inside. So like if you kept going north, you're basically going up this way, and it's kind of going up this mountainous terrain, and then there's the ocean, and then you reach the islands, you know. So there's no outer space. I think there's an inner space, like where the sun is, and between us and the sun. And I think in that inner space, it might be some kind of like gases or pressure from the whole earth, like hitting into the middle to keep the sun alive. So, yeah, like this pressure kind of effect. And then the stars are just like reflections of the mountains that it's always passing by and leaving like a permanent mark in that circular area that it's going through. So if you were to fly straight across, you would land somewhere, you know, but you can't really fly straight across because, like I said, the sun's right there and there's a lot of pressure. So if you were to go up, it would just curve you back down. And if you had enough force to get further and further, who knows? Like, are you in space? Can you prove it? I don't know. Let's see. They do go pretty high up to the ozone layer, and then they kind of just go back down, or they just float along the curve, you know, and they still can't reach the moon. And if they did, like, I want to see it happen again, but you know, they're really good at lying. All right, so we have Holla Hell, we have this little seal, so this represents Snorlax. So you might be wondering, like, okay, so the original 151 Pokemon, all the way from Bulbasaur to Mew, and then you take out their evolution, so you only have Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur. That counts as one spirit, so that would be one. Then you have Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, that's two, and you go on from there. And then you'll probably reach, I think the last one is Aerodactyl. And so Aerodactyl. Oh, the food's ready. I don't know how to pause this, but let's try. Alrighty, so I figured out how to pause it and resume it. So next time there's an interruption or I have to eat something, I can pause it. And then we can continue. I have meat stuck in my teeth. Okay. Let's see, where were we? Let's talk about like energies of the day. Let's see what for 6 o'clock on a Saturday, what energies are we dealing with? So if it's supposed to be Saturn at 8 o'clock, what's before Saturn? Could it be Mercury and Jupiter? Oh my god. This is why I always have this is my bookmark. And I always have it on the hours, so I know what time it is. Because this book can be kind of confusing sometimes. Alright, so I like to color codex my stuff too. So just get a highlighter and color the things to the matching planets. So Saturday at, what time is this, 6? We are in the hour of Mercury. And next would be the moon, and then Saturn. So from Mercury, we have double Earth energy. And that's material wealth, that's gain, that's, finding things that are lost. There's a part in the book that explains if you make friends with a gnome, he can help you find treasure. But usually people, they'll possess a person to keep digging and digging until they die, basically. So maybe that's kind of interesting if you think about it, like compelling you to do something until you're destroyed. All right, let's see. We're working with Halahel. We explained this a little bit. What else can we think about? We have Forcus, which would be Weezing. So we have Weezing, Snorlax, Mew, Mewtwo. Oh yeah, that's what we were talking about before I left. We have 72 spirits, and then we have that little extra third one, and then we have this seal. So we have like 2 little extra ones on the side. So if you were to take out all the evolutions from the Pokemon and had them just categorized by just their complete evolution, so you have Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Caterpie, etc. All the Pokemon, including their evolutions, but just you get like you can go all the way to Aerodactyl, and then after Aerodactyl, you start getting Pokemon that are legendary Pokemon. You get Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos, and for me, that is. They're not the sigils. I think that they're supposed to represent the triangle. And if you notice in the Pokemon movie, they'll have them in the triangle, getting captured by triangles. Yeah, so they're just that Mai, Kai, L. So you got Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and usually when they represent Gabriel, he's like water, Michael's fire, and Raphael is like earth, thundery kind of things. So now you got this kind of idea, like, all right, so those 3 Pokemon represent that, and then you have the Dratini, Dragonair, Dragonite, and that is the serpent that protects you. So when people are like, well, why is Dragonite yellow? And that doesn't make sense. It does, because in this book, it explains that the serpent that you use to protect you is a bright yellow. And it's basically a dragon. When you see Dratini is a serpent, then it becomes a Dragonair, and then it becomes a dragon. And it's kind of giving you this idea that you're like evolving into this perfect form of yourself, like a higher being almost. There's another book called The Abramelin that I need to get really bad. But it's basically how to bring down your guardian angel. And I think that it has a lot to tie in with this idea that you have these evolutions, you progress, you start off small, and you become greater. And it's supposed to protect you, and Dragonite's a very powerful Pokemon that can protect you. So, yeah, after that, you have the 3 birds, you have the Snorlax, you have Mew and Mewtwo. And then you have that would be Halahel. And you'll be like, okay, what about Eevee? Eevee would be Belial, and he's a liar. So he's a spirit that is very compulsive, a compulsive liar. And on the chart, he would be like, if this was 12 o'clock at night, he would be somewhere around here, right before midnight, or around the areas of midnight. But he's a sun, so he's a king. The 68th spirit is Belial. He is mighty and powerful king, and was created next after Lucifer. He appears in the form of 2 beautiful angels sitting in a chariot of fire. He speaks with a comely voice and declares that he fell first from among the worthier sort that were before Michael and other heavenly angels. His office is to distribute presentations and senatorships, and to cause favor of friends and foes. He gives excellent familiars and governs 50 legions of spirits. Note, well, that the King Belial must have offerings, sacrifices, and gifts presented unto him by the exorcist, or he will not give true answers unto his demands. But then he tarrieth not 1 hour in truth, unless he be constrained by divine power. This is his seal. Yeah. So you have this idea that, you know, Eevee, like, has these 3 different forms. So, you know, usually with Pokemon, they don't have those 3 different forms. They just have their evolution. But Eevee can go 3 different ways. So, you know, Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon. So that's kind of this lie a little bit, because it's not normal. But, yeah. So you get that a little bit. And then also you kind of have this idea, because it says that he fell before the other angels. So you get him before you get Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. You have this ability to go between the water, the thunder, and the fire. So there's just a little bit of a connection. Doesn't have to be too deep, but it's just a slight reference. Gives you an idea like what they were thinking with it. Yeah, and then he is kind of like a child in a chariot, like a beautiful little angel, because Eevee's like so cute and tiny. And it's also a king, so it has kind of like this lion effect where it looks a little bit, you know, has fur. Yeah. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, there was something I was gonna tie into Belial. Oh yeah, since he's like kind of in that north energy, that's somewhere where Taurus is. In Okay, so you have the elements. Let's kind of go into the world building real quick. So this is what the Key of Solomon is. So if we go back all the way to the beginning of time when humanity first started understanding things like with magic, you have this key, the Key of Solomon. So a long time ago existed Saturn, right? Yeah, he's basically the Titan, the one that came before all the other gods, and that would be like the blackness in the world when God was creating it. And then God was like, let there be light, and there was water and all this other stuff. Well, he was hovering above water, and he said, let there be light. All right, so you have Venus right here, and Belial would be up here. So this is the dawn, and this is like around the midnight hours, before the dawn starts rising. So you have Taurus, and Belial would be right here, number 68, and it gives you an idea that he's under Mercury. He's with Taurus, and he is influenced by Aries and Mars. Why would you be like, well, isn't this in the south? I think this is just to like reignite the sun a little bit and bring it back out into the world. I think that's what it's supposed to represent. But yeah, so you have this Taurus right here and Mercury. So usually Taurus is ruled by Venus, but that would be here on the outer rings. This is the base, like the first part of the Key of Solomon, is understanding that all the zodiac signs were like this first, and then they, after time and they experimenting and figuring out different degrees and how the world works, they started developing this outer ring. But they used this first as like their basic blueprint. So yeah, you have the Taurus to the north, and that gives you an idea of like what a liar is, because a liar is an actor. An actor is a liar. So there's somebody that will give you an illusion and like a play or a story, and they act it out and you pay them for it, or it's just like this transfer of energy. So let's say you're like a young person and you watch a movie and you kind of emulate that character, and now you know how to be that person, and you weren't that person before, or maybe you can relate to it and you can continue to be that person. So everybody kind of gets something from what they view. And that's kind of what Belial is kind of saying. He's like, well, like you have to take like that law of equivalent exchange, where like you take something and you have to give something back. So you're out there in the real world living that life, or that lie in a way, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an example of how our brain works. So we can see that the 72 seals are different parts of our brain and our bodies and how they express themselves, because everybody's a liar. It's like a known fact. So you have all these different elements, and it has something to do with Taurus. So if we have Taurus right there at the north, and Mercury, for me, like, that's the actors. They're trying to tell a story. They're models, like they say, models made out of clay, and that they mold them to become like a misshapen ball of clay. That's what they're called, I guess, in Greek. So now you can kind of tie in like how the ancients were thinking and how things evolved over time to create this next generation of zodiac signs. Let's see. So in the story, I was like, all right, I have these 4 champions: the fire, earth, water, air. But I want to narrow it down, because if my character's always fighting the other ones, like there's this 3-way battle kind of thing, I'm like, it's effective, but I feel like maybe it should just be Aphrodite versus Artemis. And then maybe I can have Hermes and Ares kind of helping him in a way. Or maybe we'll figure out. Or Aphrodite manipulates them. But I want Aphrodite to basically attack Artemis. So, let's see. If you ever played Final Fantasy X, there's a status condition called overkill, when you attack something and you do more damage than you should, and you get kind of like, I think you get like a bonus in experience, but it's like a good thing. It's because it's showing that you're so strong that when you hit something, it just overkills it. So usually when Aphrodite attacks in the spiritual realm the other gods, it's doing overkill effects. So where does that extra overkill damage go? It kind of leaches out and destroys their followers. But I'm like, all right, so if Aphrodite's fighting these other two, like Ares and Hermes, and they obey Artemis. They're basically Artemis's batteries. Hitting this one over and over again is gonna give this one time to recharge this one and go back, and then like keep being able to recharge itself. Kind of like you cut off one head, another one grows back, or different video game tactics. You'll like fight one head and then it'll heal the other one and bring it back. So I'm like, all right, I want Aphrodite to just strike Artemis. And so in my story, Aphrodite is a boy, which is my character, and Artemis is a boy, which is another character. But I don't play that character. It's all right. So we have the real world where we exist, and then we have the astral battles. And in the astral battles, they're the gods. But in the real world, Aphrodite wants to be the god, but first Aphrodite has to prove that he has the power to destroy the other gods and the rest of humanity, and is basically the ruler of the universe. But in order to do that, there's this championship for Mount Olympus, and that's the center, okay? And Mount Olympus is usually seen as like this huge mountain that all the gods live on, and that's kind of where you get this mythology from, and you can see the symbology in it. So Saturn obviously is in the center, and it's this mountain, and it's also the body of Zeus's dad, Cronus. So after they killed him, he became this mountain, Mount Olympus, because he was a titan. And so this gives you an idea, but this is also your body. So, and this is the world, and it's kind of just an idea. So usually when they have those 3 stars, like the 666, so you have 6-pointed star, but you have 3 of them, so that's 666. But it's supposed to represent the past, present, future, and it's also supposed to represent the 3 magical rings, the 3 magical books of Solomon. So it's this idea that it's a bit of a gnosis, and gnosis is like when you're like understanding mystical things, and that's where the world is always in, but it's not something that everybody has. But anyway, so we have Saturn as a titan, then we have the gods, and then we have the demigods, which are the signs, which are the astrological signs. And it's just a form of us. But we have Mount Olympus, and we have the gods living on it. And there's a story where Zeus is having like a headache, and he's like, he's trying to figure out, like, because he killed his father, so that means somebody has to kill him next. And Zeus is like, well, somebody else is going to become the god next, and who is it? And he finds out, and he eats Athena, so that way she doesn't come back and try to battle him and take his throne. But while she's inside of him, she makes it to his brain and gives him a major headache, and she gets shattered out by Hephaestus. When you do the mythology, it's good to see all the boys as Apollo and all the girls as Artemis, Aphrodite, etc., Hera, Athena. But so like you don't see the gods as like all these separate kind of gods. You see them as one kind of singular god, but they just have different expressions. So Apollo and Ares are the same god basically, and you can separate them. You can divide them. You can make them one. You can do a whole bunch of things. It's all up to you, like how you want to feel and express, because every day is going to be different. You're not going to feel the same every day. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm Aphrodite today, I'm Hermes tomorrow, or I'm Aphrodite forever. I'm not going to change my signs or what I feel like. But you change throughout your life. Some when you're younger, you're probably like more reckless, and then as you get older, you become more careful. Or maybe you're really careful when you're young and you become more reckless when you get older. We all change. So in the story, the way I have it being explained, I guess I'm using this as a way to kind of fuel it. But alright, so we have these 2 batteries, Hermes and Ares, that are charging up Artemis. Artemis is basically the god of Mount Olympus, because in the real world, laws and control basically rule over the whole earth, and Aphrodite is more about like freedom and having her own power, but nobody's giving Aphrodite that power. So my character is obviously Aphrodite. In the other videos, I kind of explain it, like how Aphrodite's like, no, I want to rule the world. I want it to be mine. I'm jealous. This is all for me. And all the other gods are like, well, we're here. Like, we have to share, right? Or like, if you're going to take everything, we're going to stop you, or maybe we're going to run or hide or make it difficult for you. Yeah, so just imagine, all right, Aphrodite, goddess of love. That sounds weak. That doesn't sound like somebody that can go and conquer the other gods. So it's kind of like a test or testament of his power, versus the other gods. So we have Artemis, and that's in the sign of Cancer. So you have the moon right here, which is Artemis or Luna, and there's Cancer right there in the middle. Before it is Scorpio because it's so close to Aries, and then Jupiter with Pisces. So I did a lot of research to get that like really solidified. I went to like Washington D.C. to do like study architecture, and not school architecture, but like go to different museums and different places that have architecture in Washington D.C. and I would examine it, look at how it ties in with the mythology that is in the Ars Goetia, and then the symbols behind it, and I will kind of let them work their magic and see what was going on. And as time passed, it would refine and refine and refine until it finally made sense on how the diagram works, how the Key of Solomon works. It's kind of like a puzzle. Like if you ever see Yu-Gi-Oh, he works on a puzzle to figure out how to get this pyramid created, and this is that pyramid. And basically it's supposed to help you conquer the world. So I was watching this thing called Esoterica Archives or Journal or something, and it's just this Jewish professor that is a very intelligent man that goes through a lot of books, and he understands the cosmology and how it works. And sometimes I kind of question it, but I'm like, you know what, it's really good information to know, but also it's good to let me know like what they get wrong and what they get right. And I wouldn't say he's necessarily wrong, but the usual idea is that there's a ring. The Key of Solomon's just a normal ring, or maybe a magical ring, or, you know, it's just the idea of a ring. And that's important because he goes into explaining that a ring is a signet. It's something that is full of power and something that represents strength and like authority. And that's exactly what this is, but it's not a physical ring. It is a manifested ring that you create through experience and wisdom and knowledge and understanding, and having this connection with God and the angels and the spirits, and it's something you evolve into and progress into, and it's not something that just is handed to you straight off the bat. You have to learn it, you have to experience it, you have to get it from somebody else, and then you kind of make your own conclusions. But after a while it starts to make sense, and it's kind of something that is hidden knowledge, so it's obviously going to be put in this book and you're going to have to like decipher it. But I'm giving you a huge shortcut because this could take years for people to understand, and some people will never ever understand it, because it's like they also have a part in the book where it's like, don't share this knowledge unless that person is willing to like, unless that person is trustworthy in a way where they're not going to like use it for evil or something. And oh well, I use it for evil, but I think so. We have Halahel, and it's partly good, partly evil, and it's this idea that you can do bad magic, but you have to be a good person, but you can be an evil person and do good things and bad things. Like it's kind of like that do what thou will thing motto, and you have to kind of be able to discern who you are and what you want to do with your life and how you want to affect the world. And for me, I'm like, I'm all in. I'm all about revenge, but I have to do it like completely pure and true, and so that means not hurting people. I've never been someone that like violently physically hurts people, but in the astral realm and magical realm terms, I can do anything. I love to fly, I love to throw thunderbolts, I love to cause earthquakes, natural disasters, and like have it on the field, and basically Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, you know, Shadow Realm stuff. And you could put that into your magic and you can get some cool effects. And but the thing is, what I've noticed is like, if you do become a really good magician in that sense, the other people that are in the world, the other high-ranking magicians, the other celebrities, the other Illuminati gods, everybody's like, wait a minute, like, no, like, they try their best to stop you. So the more stronger you get, the more noticeable you're going to get in the astral realm, and that happens for everybody, and it all depends on how they handle it. So they could see somebody like getting really strong, and they'll be like, ooh, he would make a really good singer, so they will probably like get him to either become a singer, and if he doesn't have what it takes to become a singer, they use him as like a battery, so they just drain him of his life force and his experiences, give him back that energy, and then that person gets that energy and puts it out into the universe and starts a new story, and then they end up somehow becoming a resource for the rest of the other archons. So like they'll probably buy tickets or CDs or movies or, you know, merchandise people are consumers, so they'll just keep consuming and giving these archons back their energy. So it's like this give take relationship, where somebody's on top and then there's other people at the bottom, and they like that lifestyle. And some people will get abused and hurt by that magic, and they'll keep going. But me, I've never been somebody that's been able to get possessed. Like, I've had a lot of night terrors where the spirit tries to hold me down, and I'm like, oh really? And I just get back up and I'm like, you can't destroy me. I've had dreams where people like try to kill me or something in a dream, and I'll either heal myself instantly or I'll get right back up and it's like I never got hurt. Or if somebody like tries to stop me, I'm just like, no, you can't do that. Like, I'm just like I'm a menace in the dream world. So sometimes the other spirits are just like, what do we do to, like, it's the collective conscious when you're in the dream world, and sometimes your collective consciousness, you're alone in this safe space because you don't know that the doors are open, you don't know the veils lifted, you don't know that you can travel through the realms. But eventually you learn that you can, and you can see everybody interacting with each other, but they might not know. They might see a dragon and it could be like their grandma or something. So that astral realm, it has this like a lot of variables and effects, and you can move through that even in the waking world. Like right now in the mortal realm, you can move through it, you can affect it, you can make an outcome. Later on, somebody might make a song or a movie about it, and that's what I like to try to do in the astral realm, is like inspire the other gods and their followers so they can keep getting stronger and building stronger and creating their own weapons of destruction that destroy them. They become addicted to something, they become reliant on someone or something. Sometimes they think of new things. They're very intelligent creatures that figure out how to defend themselves, and I'm left here and I'm literally the villain. And I'm just like, come on, let's go. Like, you're not gonna beat me. Like, I'm always gonna win. I've never lost. Even when I was younger, I always beat everybody that was older than me. I was like, you guys aren't gonna beat me. No way. And sometimes I'll lose on purpose so I could be like, oh, final. Like when I would play Super Smash Brothers with my family or friends, I would lose on purpose so that they can get better at the game and I can have like an actual competition. But then I would meet people that were really good, and then I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have been so nice. And now like these really good fighters can beat me. So I guess that's kind of the lesson that has been learned. All right, so let's see, what else do we have? So I'm going to have Aphrodite and Artemis fighting each other. And the important or vital part of that is that Aphrodite has nothing. Artemis literally has everything. Artemis has money, status, power, resources, followers. It has the other gods on his side. It just has this mass collective energy. Howdy. Oh, okay. So Artemis is basically the, I don't know. I would say Aphrodite's the final boss, but then what would Artemis be? Would Artemis be the hero because everybody is rooting for that, and Aphrodite's the villain? So how do I tie that into the story where Aphrodite's going after Artemis, but Artemis is like, has a lot of defenses? So you have this love energy that's always kind of getting in the way from Ares, because Ares and Aphrodite are usually together. So maybe Aphrodite has to do a spell to get Ares to attack Artemis, and Hermes, because Hermes and Ares actually do love Aphrodite. So we got this Aphrodite versus Artemis. They're both boys. So we see Artemis but Artemis has like a family. Artemis has status and power in the world. Aphrodite has nothing. But Aphrodite wants to rule the world. So, and in the physical realm, like literally the whole world. So there's gonna be like this warfare. So I guess Artemis's colors would be blue, because silver and blue, because it's in the west and it's water. And then Aphrodite's green. And I really have to somehow, it's almost like marketing the image of this battle, because Aphrodite, in order to become the king of the world, you have to get rid of another king, and that's the law of equivalent exchange. Aphrodite can't physically harm Artemis because Aphrodite doesn't have that power, that resource, that energy. You can't, no hostility physically. There can't, because the laws say if you hurt somebody, you go to jail, you go to prison, you get chained up, you lose. You don't have that kind of time. The longer he stays king, the less that you have as a chance to become a king, or basically, So Aphrodite has to prove that he's the rightful heir of the earth. And you have Artemis over here as the king of the world, owning everything. So Artemis has to destroy... Aphrodite has to destroy Artemis. But as Aphrodite attacks in the spiritual realm towards Artemis, these other two batteries get hurt. Whatever it spreads out, they all get hurt. All their followers get hurt. It's like a chain reaction, like a domino effect. I kind of want to see what it looks like and how I would envision this battle and what can I expect. So Aphrodite has air and control over manipulation, so maybe being able to speak to animals and creatures and making whatever he desires come true and allowing this love energy. So let's actually look at some of the sigils so we can get an idea of what powers Aphrodite has. So we're going to go all the way to the seals of Venus, the pentacles of semen Venus. All right. I'm gay. I can say things like that. All right. Let's see. Wow, Venus is really wedged in there. The first pentacle of Venus serves to control the spirits of Venus, especially those here written. Let's see what it looks like. We have this symbol. So this is the West because of that symbol right there. And the West is representative of love. But we have the East over here. So this would probably be South. And this would be North because the North is Earth. So that's represented by the diamond. And the West, this is the sun going down behind the water in the West. And then this would be like maybe Scorpio energy. This is the Aries energy. This is the Leo. And then this is the Gemini Aries energy. So maybe there's something hidden here that explains how Venus grabs that energy and uses it to his advantage. Let's see. Yeah, I'm an expert at this. I'm really good at it. All right. The second pentacle of Venus. This pentacle is proper for obtaining grace and honor and for all things which belong unto Venus and accomplishing all thy desires. So the next one would be this symbol, which is the symbol of the West. It's the symbol of the hourglass. It's also a symbol of a bow. So if you ever see Dragon Ball Z, they have an army called Red Ribbon, and they wear it on their arm, and it's basically to say like that they're devoted to the destruction of humanity and bringing in this new race. Yeah, but it's basically an hourglass. It's also a symbol that brings love for obtaining grace and honor. So I guess somehow Venus came from the water when the testicles of Saturn fell in there. The third pentacle of Venus, this, if it be only shown unto any person, serves to attract love. Oh wait, my bad. Okay. So this is the one that attracts love, and then this is the one. Oh, no, this is the one that is bringing you the grace and the honor, and this one is the one that brings you the love. Well, let me see. My bad. All right. For obtaining honor, grace, and all things which belong to Venus, this is the star. You have a star, Astaroth. They're usually represented by a star, and the star is a symbol that is tied in with Astaroth. When you look at its sigil, it's a star, and in Pokemon that would be Bellsprout, Weeping Bell, and Victreebel. So it's this poisonous dragon that spews fumes, and you have to wear a ring to protect yourself from it, a silver ring on your wedding finger, and like use it to cover your face so that it doesn't poison you. And when you look at Pokemon, Victreebel does spew out poisonous gases and acids and all kinds of things, and that's pretty cool that they could incorporate that. And it has like a serpent like tail that goes behind it. Anyways, let's see. Yeah, the star is important because the star is one of the first symbols. When I was watching the Esoterica archive thing, I think that's what it's called, he mentions that like the first pentacles that they would make were the star. So they wouldn't literally draw the Star of David yet, they would draw just that star. And that makes sense because back then they were only worshiping one god, kind of. So they were saying like, oh well, everything starts off with the sun rising in the morning, and that's the beginning, and that's seen as Venus. So in a way you see this imagery of this god that is the beginning. So Venus is kind of representative of that. I think I saw something else where they were saying in this other YouTube channel where he was saying that God watches you, but he can't like always see you. He has to kind of like be able to see you literally, and you can hide from him or you could keep secrets from him. And I think that's an important idea, because if you were God, would you want to know what's going on all the time, or would you rather just be like, I trust them, I'm going to give them free will, I'm going to let them live their lives, and I'm not going to intervene too much? And that's kind of what it represents. But when he said it, he's like, man, is that like really God, or is that the devil? And you have to remember, they're the same thing. God and the devil are the same thing. He could be angry, he could be sad, he could be mad, he could be anything that he wants. And we try to squeeze God to be like, no, you're supposed to be perfect, you're not allowed to be different. So then that's where God gets kind of angry and is like, you can't control me, I'm gonna do what I want. And let me see. Yeah, so we can kind of think of God as the sun, because God can see everything, but if you were to hide under the shade, you'd be protected and God couldn't see you. It's that kind of idea. But yeah, in my story, my character is God. So after a long time, after years passed, maybe when Adam and Eve were leaving the garden, a meteor fell. Or maybe when Adam and Eve were in the garden, there's this beautiful place called the Devil's Punch Bowl in Palmdale, and there's a lot of Jewish trees there that only grow there. So, and there's this Devil's Punch Bowl that has like this molten green rock that looks like a meteor hit there and left the crater and blasted everything green. And that's Lucifer. That's, God is Lucifer, and he's falling down from heaven to create Adam and Eve. So he creates Adam and Eve. As time passes, that spiritual energy is still there. Maybe it travels all the way to Jerusalem and back. And then my character's born, because that's where I was born. Alright, yeah, so then we have the other seals, which is the pentacles. The third one, yeah, so the third one with the hourglass, if you show it to somebody, they fall in love with you. If you play Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like these hourglass fairy monsters, and I'm like, oh, that's probably where they got that idea from. But yeah, I remember when I would look at those hourglasses, they would incite some kind of love in me, not like, oh, I love everything. Well, it'll just be like, wow, that's really nice, I love that feeling. It was a really good feeling. It wasn't like adoring somebody, but it was like you adore the world, like the beauty in it. You appreciate it. The fourth pentacle of Venus, it is of great power, since it compels the spirit of Venus to obey and to force on the instant any person thou wishes to come unto thee. That might be really good, like a teleportation spell, right? It would be this one. It kind of has like a baseball effect. It has a cross in the middle, it has a diamond, has this web. So maybe you can see it as like in a lot of different ways now that I think about it. But usually, like, you grab somebody, teleport them to you, grab them with the wind. We have the story, the mythology of Aquarius being kidnapped by Zeus as an eagle. You can also think of it kind of like a Pokeball, capturing someone, bringing it to you, or you can have it like be like something that seduces somebody and makes them like. When you say seduce, you don't have to mean like sexual or anything, but it could just be something that compels them to obey you or to follow you or to approach you. So maybe I can use that in like the spell to have Artemis come closer and get like destroyed by things as it gets closer. Let's see. And then the third pentacle of Venus, the fourth pentacle of Venus. So that was 42. And then we have 43, the last pentacle of Venus, the fifth and last. When it is showed unto any person soever, it inciteth and exciteth wonderfully unto love. My heart is like wax, it is melted in the midst of my bowels. So it's supposed to bring in a lot of love when you use it. And it's this one. That one is kind of interesting. You see a square with, it looks like feet, and then you have a circle around it, what could be representative of the sun, and then this diamond shape. So like earth and air, earth and the sun, earth and fire. I don't know. But if you notice, it has the seal of Solomon right there, which is the Star of David. And that's usually representative of the south energies, so like solar energies. Yeah, that one's kind of interesting. Maybe it's just a good way to show that Venus can like affect things. Anyways, let's go to Artemis. So we kind of have like a little bit of an idea of how Venus might be able to use his abilities to destroy Artemis, because he's fighting for this war. The moon, the first pentacle of the moon, this follows, serves to call forth and invoke the spirits of the moon, and serves to open doors in whatever way they be fastened. The second one, this serves against all perils of danger by water, and by chance the spirits of the moon should excite and cause great rain and exceeding tempest unto the circle, in order to astonish and terrify thee. On showing them the pentacle, it will speedily cease. The third pentacle of the moon, this being duly born with thee when on a journey, if it be properly made, servants against all attacks by night and against every kind of danger and peril by water. The fourth pentacle, so it's already giving an idea that the moon can do a lot. It can go anywhere it wants, it can open any door, it can safely travel across different domains. This defends these from all evil sorceries and from all injury unto soul or body. It also gives you knowledge of virtues of herbs and stones. Unto whoever shall name him, he will procure the knowledge of all. That's difficult, right? So he has these really huge defenses, which is Cancer versus Gemini, Aphrodite versus Artemis, Cancer, okay? So you have these two different... This could even go for anything else. So, like, let's say you're a Libra up here and you're fighting a Scorpio. And now you can have this idea that Scorpio has all these energies with the water, and then Libra has all these energies with air and what it can do and how you're going to fight in the astral realm. And, you know, everybody has different varying levels of power and you might get different effects. For me, I know I can fight the other signs and, you know, but I want to do like a huge expansive damage. So I like to go after the main characters, the people that are like the main characters in the world, because if you go after those people, you're basically making a name for yourself. And as a demon lord, the more you destroy and make a name for yourself, the higher up you go. So I want my character to be like whoop all the way up there and have everybody like, okay, we get it, the demon lord's the winner and we gotta obey. Alright, so let's keep going to the moon. It serves to have answers and sleeps. Thou mayst call upon Abdon and Dale against all phantoms of the night, and to some of the souls that departed from Hades. This wonderful good and serveth excellently to excite rains and cause heavy rains. Yeah, so we get this idea that the moon controls the water, causes heavy rains, open doors, dreams, protection against evil, and it also has the ability to destroy. But Venus has like poison powders and different love effects and grace and honors. So there's these two energies that are at war with each other in the story. How are we going to get them to fight, and how is Aphrodite going to win? Because my character is not going to lose. I have to win. I have to figure out how to use black magic to destroy Artemis. And the more I destroy Artemis, the more the other spirits around it are released. So the humans are destroyed, but the spiritual realm, so like let's say there's mermaid or undines that are like don't want to be under the dominion of this fake Artemis, then my character has to destroy them. So they'll be released and they'll be free, and then they can like live their lives and obey Venus a little bit better. So like let's say Venus is like, man, I really want to go to the beach and enjoy the water, and the mermaids are like, me too, I want to have fun with you. But then Artemis is like so connected to them, it affects them and makes it harder for them to interact. Yeah, so let's see, and that has a lot to do with wealth, because Jupiter is seen as the planet of wealth and the west is wealth. And so if water is wealth and the earth is wealth, and Artemis is ruling over all these domains, the fire and the water and the earth, but not really the air, there's a conflict, I guess, that where Aphrodite's poor, my character's poor, he doesn't have a lot of money, he doesn't have a lot of resources, he doesn't have energy, he doesn't have power. And over here, Artemis has everything. So how is Aphrodite going to get everything? Aphrodite has to follow these rules in the book, has to follow the chart to be able to get what he wants the way he wants it. There's a lot of spells in the Ars Goetia that teaches you how to like find a thief. I've did spells like that, and it keeps pointing back down to Artemis. So this isn't literally Artemis, the god of the hunt, but this is who's in the placeholder of Artemis. So like the most powerful people that are in those signs that get stuck there. So for my character, obviously I'm a Gemini, but I have like a lot of DNA heritage from my ancestors that created me, that were very powerful sorcerers. They were like high priests, they were druids and Celtics and Egyptian priests, and like Jewish rabbi leaders and kings and lords, etc., etc. So I have this huge heritage, but when I was born, I gave up a lot to give the world a chance to see what life was like on the other side, like on my side, and the world took advantage of that, and now we're here. And then you have Artemis, which is a human being in this realm, but for the purpose of the story, we're just going to say he's Artemis because we don't want everybody to kind of know who this person is, because he's already pretty famous, he's already well known, but I want to make sure that I have like a clean slate, because I'm not going to physically harm this person, I'm going to magically destroy this person. And you can't get in trouble for magically destroying somebody. So then this is just a character in this hypothetical universe, but I try to tie it in to be as close to what reality is. All right, so we have Artemis and Venus, and I'm a Gemini, so I'm under the domain of Venus, and he's a Cancer, so he's under the domain of water and the moon. So then if I'm super strong and high up there in the magical realm, I'm representing Venus. Just like if you were a super popular drag race star, you'd be really well known, right? Or even if you're not well known, you're really like somebody that's proactive in the drag community, and that person's going to be seen as somebody that's a leader and, you know, representative of that energy. So obviously I have Venus and he has Artemis, and my character has to fight this. Like, I don't know if you see, there are battles where Artemis and Aphrodite fight each other because they're like getting mad because they keep killing each other's lovers. So like Artemis is like, you killed my husband, and Aphrodite's like, you killed my husband, and they just start going at it with each other and trying to destroy each other. And I kind of want to like dig deeper into that mythology and figure out what are the answers and how things work, because you can learn a lot from a story to like make your life better. And I feel like the point in my life right now, like, that not anything that I do makes it better, but what does make it better is that I keep trying and I keep fighting for what I love and what I want, and it keeps making a difference in my life. But I'm like completely aware now of like, and the more you know about your life and what you want for it, the harder it will get, because everybody wants you to fail, everybody wants you to lose, so they double down, they try harder, and that's perfect because it breaks them apart little by little until they have nothing left and you win. But right now they have so much, and I'm still giving them more because I want them to have everything, so that way when I destroy them, they know what it feels like to hurt, what it feels like to lose everything. We could probably go into that a little bit more in the next video that I'm gonna make. I'll probably make like a shorter video because I usually end these like around 8 o'clock. So it's 7:16 right now, so I have like an hour left before I have to get off the computer. Alright, yeah, so let's get back into the story a little bit more, and I'll do that in the next video. This is the Illuminati broadcast. I'm David Moore, I'm your host, and I rule the world. I'm God. Get over it. Thank you, bye.